Where'd the other ones go?
Over here. By the coffee.
Oh.
They wanted to hang out with the coffee.
We're literally in view now.
Yeah. Boop.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Outer space, Grace. It makes so much more sense now.
Outer space.
It literally...
Space biologist?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I didn't realize, because she's technically doing a master's in plant stuff, I didn't realize her undergrad was in space stuff. It's pretty cool.
Is it combined, like learning how plants react and grow in space?
I don't know, but that would be cool, right? Did I run the dishwasher last night? I did. I'm a genius. Or did you do it?
I did.
Okay.
I'm a genius.
Secret boyfriend's a genius.
You usually run it.
It's been run is the important part.
You run it most of the time. But you were very tired last night.
I was. Yes, I did help plants respond in microgravity in undergrad. Yes, she did.
That's amazing.
That sounds like your favorite thing ever, babe. That literally sounds like your favorite thing.
What is the major difference between plants growing in Earth orbit versus space?
What is the major difference between plants growing
on Earth and
in space?
I would imagine. I mean, the setup would have to be completely different. But like, what's the major growth difference? I guess assuming both have like adequate setups.
Now I'm doing artificial growth systems intended for the moon and Mars.
Whoa.
She said they don't like it, but it's just a lot of stress. The plants don't like it. It's just a lot of stress.
Because there's no gravity working against them?
Root growth is severely stunted.
Oh, that makes sense. Because like, you can't really like have like a soil setup, I guess.
Right.
How do you get around that?
How do you get around that?
Besides, make a giant spaceship that has a spinning thing so they do get gravity.
Amanda, that's funny. Do you guys want to see something amazing?
Can we do a Q&A with
Grace? Sure. Grace, will you do a science Q&A for Secret Boyfriend one day? Morning, Cindy.
No, you do.
I bet she will. They typically... No, I know, but it would be like mostly for you. They typically have a pack of nutrients near their roots. Interesting. I think Grace would do it. Yeah, she said yes. I think that'd be fascinating. I think there's a lot of people who would be interested to see it. Look what I got in the mail. These are rainbow roses, and they came from Arbitrary Canary. What a beautiful gift. I have more than just this. This is just what would fit in this particular vase that I have. I have another more. She sent a lot of them. People joke about adults and slime, but we have literal geniuses in here. It's true, actually. People do joke about adults and slime, but most of the adults who are in our slime group either have in the past or currently work like really intense jobs.
You have a master's?
I almost have a master's. It's not completed, but yeah.
You have a master's?
I couldn't afford to finish
it.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to finish it.
Yeah, that's okay.
It costs a lot of money. NYU's too expensive.
Yes. No, that's not fair.
Couldn't afford to finish it. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. You know what? I take great pride in the fact that I was intelligent enough to get into such a small program. I went to NYU for my master's, then I saw the price. Yep, I'm glad you didn't, Grace. You made the right decision. It would have been difficult to finish it. It's an extremely educated group, Amanda. Yeah. Smart isn't just about a PhD. No, it absolutely isn't. There's a lot of women in our group who are extremely intelligent for other reasons. But it's a very easy way to explain to like lay people that we're not idiots. You know?
I would do it.
There's a lot of people who they're like, you just like kids things because you're dumb. And it's like, no, it's not a kids thing and you're dumb.
But who said that?
Oh, trolls all the time. Hey, Arbitrary Canary, look at this. She's here. And not everyone who gets a PhD is smart. Also true. Look at this. This is just about, I would say maybe a third of the flowers. I had to split them into multiple vases because there's so many and they're so beautiful. They are pretty. I adore flowers. I'm a big flower girl.
I've never seen anything like this. Oh, ask plant size. How do they pull out?
Grace, how do they make these?
I think you're probably right with the thing, but still.
Is it the water up through the roots thing that we did in school? Is it the same way? Hi, Emma. Yes, book club. We're going to be Land of Stories-ing it today. They are alive, Grace. Yes. That's where part of our confusion has come from.
What?
She just asked if they were alive. They're totes alive. We have them in water and plant food. No, they're not spray painted at all.
Because,
No.
Inner petals that aren't open yet
Are colored.
Yeah.
They're stunning, truly. Very impressed with them. Very love them. Just trying to figure out if they're made the same way.
So many different colors within each one.
But do you remember? Yeah. Do you guys remember doing the project in school? It's not Rainbow Slime Girl, it's Rainbow Flower Girl. I am Rainbow Flower Girl. Yes, they dyed it from the water. Okay, so it is the same project. Yes. Okay, great.
It's just that you got a bunch of different water and it just kind of
Yeah. You split the stem. Yep. Yeah, wait, did you guys not do it in grammar school? We totally did this. You split
I just go to a fancy California school.
Yeah, you split the stem or the root and you put it in the different colors and it grows up through it.
The Midwest, our project was paint.
E-paint? Don't do that, honey.
Okay. Let's say we didn't have it.
I recommend against it. Yeah, I don't know how they isolate it so well, but they did a great job, and I'm grateful for them doing it. This is for you.
Whoa.
Yeah. Coffee. My high school color was blue, so all the stores have blue carnations using that process. That makes sense. How did they make the individual flowers with multicolored throughout? Yeah, just the split stem or split root thing. Can I see a top down of the flower? Sure. Give me 1 second. Let me just put this on and then I'll grab one out of the water for you guys. Just give me 1 quick second. I gotta get this stuff out of the way. It's today Land of Stories. Yeah, today is technically day 2 of Land of Stories, but yesterday was just a prologue, Renee, so it's not into the story. We can do a quick recap for you. So a top down, let me get one of these flowers out so you can see it. Hold on. It's hard to see. The light isn't great. Hold on. You found it? Does that help? And it's in plant food right now. Oh yeah, I see this. I thought it was individual petals. They split the stem. Makes sense now. Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Really beautiful. What's a closey lid thing? I don't know what that means. You should, Grace. You should do a rainbow space rose. Whoa, spacey rainbow rose. I think that sounds phenomenal. How's everyone doing this morning? It would be so cool. What if you could make gray roses so they look like moon drops? Can someone make gray roses? So that it would be, you could do like cool monochrome things.
How long term is your growth on Mars project?
How long term is your growth on Mars project? You guys are sick? Why is everybody sick? No good. Trying to plan a quick family getaway. I love that. That sounds amazing.
Family getaway.
I love that for you. I'm so excited for our reading today, guys. I'm dog sitting and I went home to get my pillow yesterday, so I feel amazing. That does sound amazing. I had to send someone home from work with a fever yesterday, so I'll be sick next week. No! Not good. Not good, Renee.
This milk.
I put it away.
No.
I'm not sick, just ruining my life. Wait. Just life ruining my life. Wait, what? I don't understand. What's that mean? Man, this is good. It's good coffee this morning.
having a spinach smoothie this morning, babe.
Ugh.
Steal yourself.
Do you want to put some cherries in it?
Yes. I do.
So that it at least tastes good?
This may be a two-spin day.
We are ragtag bunch this morning. It's true. Nespresso comes today. I'm going to Chicago today. Oh no, Marcus buying us tickets to Oh, you're going to see Merrily, Liz? Oh, I'm so excited for you. Life is exhausting. It's true. Oh my goodness. That's exciting. Merrily is so good. It's so good. I don't even know how to quantify. Hi, Kristen. It's among the best shows that I've seen in my lifetime, and I have seen too many shows. I can't even count.
Two shows?
I've seen maybe 2,000 shows. Sasha, I need a list of shows. I don't know where to begin. I'm a new intro to Broadway video. Comment on a thing so I can remember to make a video. So I had a thought about when your book comes out. Tell me your thought about when my book comes out, Jen. I'm always open to thoughts. If people want to remind me, I can make a video that's like, hey, here, ask your Broadway questions here, and then we can answer them individually. That might be the best thing to do. My Broadway spreadsheet is like 400 some shows. Yeah. Well, because when I was working as a reviewer, we're gonna do Smoothie Dance. I used to see like a ton of shows. That would be amazing, Jen. I would love that. Have any musical lovers seen Schmigadoon? I've seen one episode of Schmigadoon. It was not my cup of tea.
I think it's great.
Secret Boyfriend thinks it's
making fun of
great.
Musicals too much.
It was difficult for me. I know so many people love it, and I know that the cast is primarily made up of musical theater performers. I am also not a Kristen Chenoweth fan, so.
Which one's Kristen Chenoweth?
The one who played the evil, like, mayor or whatever.
Oh, the evil
preacher's wife, whatever you want to call her. I don't remember what she was.
Who's the preacher's wife?
Preacher's wife. She's not my favorite. I'm also not an Ariana DeBose fan either. So that may be. Who did she play in it, Shelley? You keep getting clips on your FYP and it weirds you out. Yeah, I'm a huge Aaron Tveit fan. I am not an Ariana fan. I have a hot take about Ariana. My hot take about them is that people are obsessed with Ariana as a token because Ariana is non-binary and of multiple ethnicities and has a lot of technical ability, but I don't feel any heart from anything they ever perform. And I think that people just like them because they're them. And I hate stuff like that. That's a real, like, a hard line for me. I won't, like, it's like the same thing as when people would be like, oh, you're just friends with someone because they're gay. It's like, no, you can be gay and I can still think you're a jerk. Like, I don't love everyone who's gay. I just love my friends who are gay. And I'm going to stick up for people's rights, whether I think that they're jerks or not. But not everyone who is different is good, you know? So, yeah, I'm not a fan of them. I watched the Tony Awards that they hosted, and everyone was like, oh my God, it was the greatest Tony Awards ever. I was like, Neil Patrick Harris did 70 million times better. And everyone just doesn't want to say that because he's a white man, you know? But he was infinitely better as a host than Ariana ever was. So it's like, I don't know. I take issue with stuff like that. And I know it's a hot take that not everybody in the theater industry likes to hear, but that's mine. He did it bigger and he did it better. And no one will ever compete with the opening number he did. We Were That Kid. Yeah. He's the only host you can remember because he's the only one that was good. Hosts for award shows are generally crappy, and Neil Patrick Harris made it good.
One more time?
I also loved Sarah and Josh hosting, actually, as well. Yeah, Smoothie Dance. I think Sarah and Josh were good. Yeah. Yeah, people do shit on them for what they did, but I thought their hosting was good. It was about as good as you can hope for outside of having Neil just do it for the rest of forever. But if any of you have never seen the opening number of We Were That Kid that Neil Patrick Harris did for the Tony Awards, I think it was his second or third year doing it. Hey, Zelda. When we're done here, go to YouTube and search We Were That Kid, Neil Patrick Harris Tony Awards, and just go ahead and cry your eyes out for the next 7 years. It was the most phenomenal opening number to any award show ever. And if you don't sit there with your jaw on the floor, you don't like theater. You know what I mean? That's just it. Gonna listen while I do dumb work. That's totally fair. How is it? Is it delicioso despite the spinach?
Better now.
Better now?
Yeah, I needed one more spin with a little more cherries.
Little more cherries. Every time I meet a theater hater that loves movies, I have to remind them that actors are theater kids. Yes, 90% of people who go into movie work were theater kids, for sure. And most of them, given the opportunity, once they make enough money to sustain their life, will choose to go back to the theater. Like, if you look at, like Daniel Radcliffe is a perfect example of that. Like, Daniel Radcliffe just does a bunch of theater, not because it makes him any money, really. I mean, they're not paying him that much comparatively, but just because he loves it. What?
He has enough money.
Yeah, he has plenty of money, exactly. You signed Emma up for theater classes. Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun, for sure.
Good.
Yummy. You should see him in a show, Jen. I've seen Daniel in 2 completely different shows, and he was great in both of them. I think he brought something different to both of them, and he is pretty well renowned in the theater industry for being like super cool, and doesn't act like an actor. You know what I mean? Like oh, Hollywood or whatever. He doesn't have any of that vibe to him. Yeah, he chooses his career pretty well. Yeah, you got to give him a lot of credit for that. Yeah. So anyway.
Even the movie where he played a fart bag?
What?
He played a corpse that was a fart bag in the movie.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know that, but it's funny.
It's funny.
I'm a firm believer that every kid should be in theater requires a life skill for public speaking. There is something to be said for that.
That would have been torture for me.
Yeah, I mean, Al Pacino was very bad on stage, as was Michelle Williams. Yeah, Michelle Williams was a little rough sauce on stage. I worked on a show that she was in, and it was a little roughsies.
Who's Michelle Williams?
What is something that he would know Michelle Williams from? I don't know. That is pretty funny, Jen. I saw her in Blackbird and she was horrendous. I worked on Cabaret when she was in it. Oh, Dawson's Creek. I guess she was on Dawson's Creek. Not that you would have watched that, but your sister did, right?
I don't think she actually watched it.
Brokeback Mountain. She was married to Heath Ledger.
I did not see Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
That wasn't really, I wasn't the audience for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
don't know. She's blonde, very blonde, has short hair for the last decade or so. She was the mom in Fablemans.
Fablemans?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Anyway, I can show you a picture of her after this. It's not, but yeah, she's not great.
Apparently, I've never seen her in anything, so.
Yeah. She was also in The Greatest Showman.
I didn't see that. New baby's grown.
New baby? Who's having a baby?
This one.
Oh, that's unexpected. They're pretty young.
Yeah.
He's talking about our plant, just as an FYI. Not like some young person. Do I start coming to book club? Yes, today we are doing chapter 1 of Land of Stories, Frankie. So
this one's grown on also.
That's a big one though. That one's been around a while.
Yeah, but it hasn't grown. It doesn't have much gone off of it.
I'm so confused to why they didn't cast someone who could sing that lady. Yeah, I know. All right, so To anyone who missed yesterday was the prologue of Land of Stories Book 5. It is currently uploaded on YouTube if you want to go listen to it later. It was a phenomenal prologue. I highly recommend listening to it, but it is not necessary to be here for the rest of the book. What I will tell you is basically the twins have to go back to school real quick to get Connor's stories because this is an author's odyssey. And they run into their old teacher, and I'll let you take it from there. But all you need to know is they have his stories in hand is the important part there. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with chapter 1. This is chapter 1 of Land of Stories, book 5. Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 1, The Masked Empire. The air was filled with so much smoke you could barely see the sky. Every time it was cleared by a strong wind, it was quickly replenished from another pillaged town or forest fire. During the day, the sun looked like a weak lantern shining through a brown sheet. At night, seeing a star had become as rare as spotting a shooting star. The fairy tale world had faced many troubling times in recent years, but never anything like this. It was the first time in history that happily ever after seemed impossible to regain. Over the course of one night, the Wicked Witch of the West's Winky army attacked the Charming Kingdom and the Troblin territory. Her flying monkeys were sent to terrorize the Elf Empire and the Corner Kingdom. The Queen of Hearts marched her card soldiers through the Center Kingdom and then wreaked havoc on the Eastern Kingdom. Captain Hook's band of pirates poisoned the waters of Mermaid Bay, sending the mermaids fleeing deeper into the ocean. Captain Hook's flying ship, the Jolly Roger, attacked the Fairy Kingdom, leaving the palace in pieces. The captain took the Northern Kingdom by storm. The soldiers and the villagers of every kingdom who had once band together to fight off the Grand Armée were no match for these invaders. Their homes and towns were pillaged and burned to the ground. Their farms and stables were raided. Their livestock and horses were stolen. All the fairies were presumed dead or in hiding. The kings and queens had lost their thrones and their homes lay in ruin. The forests were slowly burned one at a time, giving the animals and refugees fewer and fewer places to hide. The kingdoms and the territories of yesterday seemed to cease to exist. All the land in the fairy tale world had been combined into one large empire, ruled by the infamous masked man and his newly assembled literary army. The elf, troll, goblin, and human civilians from all over the fairy tale world were rounded up and marched into the Northern Kingdom. They were pushed into Swan Lake, just beside the severely damaged Northern Palace. The lake had been dried out by the literary army, making it a deep, muddy crater, perfect to hold the civilian prisoner. By the time the lake was filled, the sun had started its descent in the western sky. The literary soldiers pointed their captives' attention to a large balcony of the palace. Doors opened, and the masked man appeared. His entire head was covered in a mask made of rubies and jewels, with only 2 slits for his eyes. His raggedy clothes had been upgraded to a well-tailored suit. He wore a long black cape with a collar that towered sinisterly over his head. The masked man finally looked like the menacing ruler he had always wanted to become. His entrance was met with a thunderous rumble of booing and hissing, which only escalated when the Queen of Hearts, the Wicked Witch of the West, and Captain Hook joined him on the balcony. The masked man held up his hands out in front of him, embracing the noise as if it were applause. "Now, now, now," he said. "Is that how you address your new emperor?" The title was not received well by his imprisoned audience. Many of the civilians had stashed food in their clothing before being forced from their homes, and rather than saving it, they threw it angrily at the masked man. The self-appointed emperor was pelted with tomatoes, plums, and heads of lettuce. The civilians roared with laughter. Even the Wicked Witch of the West cackled at the embarrassing scene. But the masked man wouldn't let his first moments as emperor be a mockery. "Silence or I'll kill you all," the masked man yelled.
The food throwing stopped and a tense hush fell over the dried-up lake. He had already destroyed their villages and homes. There was no telling how far he would go to gain respect. A winged monkey brought the masked man a rag, and he wiped the food off his clothing. From this day forward, you will no longer be the people of your pathetic kingdoms, but the property of this empire, he announced. Disrespect me again, and I will not show you the same mercy as your weak kings and fragile queens. Anyone who dares to cross me will not only lose their own lives, but will first watch as I take their families' lives as well. Children throughout the lake began to cry, and their parents held them tightly. It seemed the darkest days were still ahead. I've brought you all here to witness the birth of a new era, the masked man preached. But before we achieve a new future, the ways of the past must be destroyed, and the leaders of the past are no exception. The masked man gestured to a large wooden platform below the balcony. On the lawn between the palace and the dried lake, a very tall man in a long black cloak climbed to the top of the platform and placed a large wooden block at its center. A dozen flying monkeys pulled a wagon out from behind the palace. It carried the former kings and queens of the fairy tale world: Cinderella, King Chance; Sleeping Beauty, King Chase; Snow White, King Chandler; Trollbella, Empress Elvina; Rapunzel, Sir William, and even the young princesses Hope and Ash. All the royals had their hands tied, and they were blindfolded and gagged with strips of white cloth. The tall man on the platform withdrew a large silver axe from inside his cloak. The civilians began screaming and shouting in horror as they realized the purpose of it. The masked man was going to have the royal families executed. Although they couldn't see, the kings and queens knew what was happening by the sound of the terrified crowd. They fought against their restraints, but they didn't budge. The civilians desperately tried to climb out of the dried lake to save their rulers, but they were kicked back into the mud. The card soldiers stood around the lake's perimeter and locked arms, forming a wall to block them. The masked man laughed wildly at all the terror he was causing. Winky soldiers pulled the royals out of the wagon and pushed them up the steps to the platform, and then stood guard around it. The cloaked executioner sharpened his axe as he awaited his cue to begin. Start with the men, then the women, then the children, the masked man ordered. Your Majesty, if you would please do the honors. The Queen of Hearts stepped to the edge of the balcony. With enlarged eyes and a devious grin, she looked down at the distressed royals like they were a delicious snack. Off with their heads, she roared. The lake erupted in protest. Women cried desperate pleas for the execution to stop. The men yelled profanities at the masked men for being so cruel. The frightened royal families huddled together in the corner of the platform and trembled. The executioner selected King Chance to be his first kill. He grabbed him by the arm and dragged him to the block. Cinderella and Hope screamed through their gags when they realized he was no longer standing beside them. The executioner forced Chance into a kneeling position and placed his head on the wooden block. He held the axe above the king's neck and practiced swinging. With each swing, the civilians gasped, fearing it was the fatal blow. Finally, the executioner raised his axe higher into the air than he had raised it before. The pleas and screams from the helpless bystanders multiplied. The royals knew that it was only a matter of seconds before the king lost his head. The executioner brought down his axe, but as he did, he spun his body so it sliced the platform instead of the king's neck. Suddenly, the floor caved, causing the executioner and all the royals to fall through the platform and disappear from sight. It was so unexpected that the panicked crowd went silent. This couldn't have been part of the plan. What just happened? The masked man screamed from the balcony. Get them out of there! Just as the Winky soldiers went to inspect the platform, 3 large horses burst out from inside of it. Porridge, Buckle, and Oats had been under the platform the entire time. They were pulling a carriage with the executioner and all the royals safely aboard. The platform had been a large trapdoor. "No!" the masked man screamed. He leaned over the balcony as far as he could to get a better look, but to his horror, he saw Goldilocks on Porridge and Jack on Buckle. The couple steered the horses and the carriage far into the forest beyond the palace, knocking over dozens of Winky soldiers as they went. The execution had turned into a rescue mission right before the masked man's eyes. Goldilocks glanced back at the royals. "Is everyone all right?" The royals moaned through their gags. Still blindfolded, they had no clue what was going on. The executioner threw off his cloak. It had been the Tin Woodsman all along. "Don't fret, your majesties," he said. "This is a rescue." The Tin Woodsman sliced off the royals' restraints with his axe. "We're not out of it yet," Jack said. "Everyone stay low. This is going to be a bumpy ride." Meanwhile, the elf, troll, goblin, and human civilians embraced one another and cheered as their leaders got away. The masked man was so furious he was practically breathing fire. The visible skin around his eyes turned so red it matched the rubies in his mask. "After them, all of you!" he ordered the literary army. "Don't let them escape." The rescue party was chased through the forest by droves of Winkies and Card soldiers on horseback. The fleet of flying monkeys followed them from the smoky sky. As the royals removed their blindfolds and looked around, the escape didn't seem likely. There was no way their carriage stood a chance as approached by the literary soldiers. Luckily, Jack and Goldilocks had friends with a few tricks up their sleeves. The Winkies and Card soldiers were gaining speed and moving closer to the carriage. Goldilocks nodded to Jack as he whistled. Suddenly, Sir Grant and Sir Lambton appeared with dozens of their men on horseback. They performed a protective circle around the carriage of royals and knocked the approaching literary soldiers to the ground. "Sir Lambton, is that you?" Cinderella said. "Hello, your majesty," he said. "I wish the circumstances were different, but I'm very pleased to see you alive." Sir Grant and Sir Lambton's men were not alone. They shared their horses with the lost boys from Neverland. When they were close enough, Toodles, Nibs, Curly, and the lost twins jumped off their horses and landed in the carriage with the royals. The lost boys pulled slingshots out of their pockets and launched rocks at the Winkies and the Card soldiers, hitting them in the face and knocking them off their horses. "This is fun," Toodles said. "Let's make it a game," Curly said. 10 points for the big ones with the squares and 5 for the golden guys, Nibs decided. "Deal," the lost twins said. The lost boys giggled so hard watching the Winkies and Cards fall off their horses that tears streamed down their rosy faces. They hadn't had this much fun since they left Neverland. Thanks to the lost boys and Sir Grant and Sir Lambton's men, the number of literary soldiers trailing the carriage had significantly lowered. But there were still plenty of Winkies and Cards left to be concerned about. Luckily, the rescue party was close to the next phase of their plan. As they raced further into the forest, Goldilocks spotted an arrow sticking out of the tree. It was a sign. "Jack, I see the arrow," she said. "We're almost to the Merry Men." Porridge, Buckle, and Oats were getting tired and starting to slow down, so Jack was relieved to hear it. When he whistled towards the treetop as loudly as he could, "Was that the whistle we've been waiting for, or do my ears deceive me?" shouted a boisterous voice from the trees. Jack rolled his eyes and whistled again. "There it is again! Our time has come, merry men, attack!" Robin Hood and his merry men swung down from the treetops on ropes like monkeys on vines. Little John, Alan Adale, and Will Scarlet slammed into the Winkies and the Cards. They knocked them to the ground and stole their horses. Robin Hood flipped through the air and landed in the carriage with the royals. He took off his hat and bowed to the queens. "Have no fear, ladies, for the true hero has arrived," he said. He winked at them flirtatiously and kissed Rapunzel's hand, which Sir William did not appreciate. "Gosh, I really hate that guy," Jack whispered to Goldilocks. Robin Hood reached for the bow and quiver of arrows fastened to the back of his vest and joined the lost boys in shooting the Winkies and Cards off their horses. After hitting a few, the Prince of Thieves grew cocky and started showing off for the queens, striking ridiculous poses as he fired. "Don't be intimidated, lost boys," he said. and he rubbed Toodles' head. "Battle is meant for men." Toodles snapped his slingshot against Robin Hood's buttocks and caused him to squeal like an injured swine. "Toodles, save it for the enemies," Goldilocks reprimanded. "Sorry, it slipped," Toodles said. By now, the Winkies and the Card soldiers had been knocked to the ground or had retreated to the northern palace. However, the chase wasn't over yet. Piercing screeches echoed through the forest as the flying monkeys descended on the rescue party. Jack whistled again. "Peter, it's your turn," he yelled. Like a rocket, Peter Pan flew out from underneath the carriage where he had been hiding. It happened so fast that he startled the royal families. The boy who never grew up handed 2 bags of firecrackers to Little John and Alanadale, and matches to Will Scarlet. The merry men tossed the firecrackers to Will Scarlet, and once he lit them, Peter scooped them up. The boy flew above the treetops and threw the firecrackers at the approaching monkeys. Each explosion shocked and discombobulated the flying monkeys. They fluttered to the ground. Peter and the merry men continued their firecracker relay until all the flying monkeys had dropped from the sky. "Take that, you overgrown bats!" Peter chuckled. Trollbella watched Peter Pan in astonishment. Her heart was beating so fast, if it had wings, she could have joined him in flight. It's just like I was beheaded and went to heaven," she said. "He's just like Butterboy, but he floats and sparkles. I didn't know a boy so wonderful could even exist. Stop it, Trollbella. Pull yourself together. You promised yourself you wouldn't love again until the world was in a better condition." Still, the Troubling Queen tried to catch trails of fairy dust that Peter left behind as he flew beside the carriage. Finally free from the masked man's literary army, the royals and their rescuers could all breathe a little easier. Goldilocks and Jack took the reins from their horses and steered them into a sharp left, leading the party straight into the dwarf forest. "Where are we going?" Snow White asked. "Someplace the masked man and his army will never find us," Goldilocks said. "Now everyone keep as quiet as possible," Jack instructed. "The less noise we make, the better." The royals obeyed his instructions. The rescue party spent the rest of the day traveling deeper and deeper into Dwarf Forest. The kings and queens glanced around nervously at the thick forest, as most of them had never been to these parts before. They kept waiting for something frightening to appear, but the forest that infamously housed the most dangerous creatures and criminals in the fairy tale world seemed rather empty. They reached a hilly part of the woods just before nightfall. Goldilocks stopped the procession in front of a large boulder sticking out into the hillside. She covered her mouth and made a peculiar shape with her hands. "Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" she called. The bird call echoed through the forest. The party waited anxiously in silence. A moment later, a faint bird call came somewhere from beyond the boulder. "Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Cuckoo! The boulder was slowly rolled away by 2 monstrous black bears, revealing a hidden tunnel in hillside. The sight of the bears frightened the royals, and they held to one another closely. "Don't be scared. They're with us," Goldilocks whispered. "If anyone has reservations about bears, it's me." The carriage moved into the tunnel, and the men on horseback followed. Once the entire rescue party was inside, the bears rolled the boulder back so that the entrance was hidden again. The rescue party traveled down the tunnel for several hundred feet and then entered a cavernous mine. The ground was covered in carts and tracks that stretched into more tunnels going deeper into the hillside. Thousands of fireflies covered the stalactites above, illuminated the dark cave of earthy chandeliers. Dozens of sheets and quilts were draped over the stalagmites to make several tents. The royal families were very surprised to see they were among hundreds of other refugees. Families of humans, elves, trolls, and goblins were dispersed throughout the mines. There were also several groups of animals: foxes, wolves, badgers, bears, and birds of every kind. Even the animals were taking shelter during this terrible time, which explained why the forest was so empty. There were few familiar faces among the hideaways as well. Hagetta and Friar Tuck were cooking a meal together in a large cauldron. The traveling tradesman, the old geezer who sold Jack the magic beans that grew into the infamous beanstalk, sat against a stalagmite as he counted a collection of chicken feet that he kept in a small sack. Queen Red Riding Hood was at the back of the mine, sitting quietly alone. Her granny and the little old woman from the shoe inn sat nearest to her, knitting quilts to make more tents. Slightly, the lost boy who had turned into a baby thanks to the youth potion was taking a nap in the bassinet beside the older women. Bluebow, a young flying monkey, was curled up in the bassinet beside him. Thanks to Granny's bad eyesight, she thought he was an extremely furry infant. Being the pets of high maintenance women, Claudius and Lester had become fast friends when they were brought to the mine. The animals also napped together, taking turns using each other as pillow. Rook Robbins and his father sat in a group with others from their village. Since he had nearly gotten the royals killed a year earlier, seeing them filled Rook with unbearable guilt. He excused himself from the group and took a walk through the tunnels to be alone. The rescue party's entrance caused quite the commotion. Everyone was so happy to see the royal families were alive that the mine vibrated with emotional cheers. The refugees surrounded the carriage and welcomed their leaders to the only sanctuary left in the fairy tale world. "Thank heavens you're all right," Hagetta said. "Our prayers have been answered," Friar Tuck said. Jack climbed down from Buckle and then carefully helped Goldilocks off of Porridge, an act that became increasingly difficult as Goldilocks' pregnant belly grew every day. It was only a matter of time before they welcomed their child into the world. They only wished a better world awaited. Robin Hood and the merry men eagerly helped the queens down from the carriage, kissing their hands as they did so, which greatly annoyed their husband. "Where are we?" Sleeping Beauty asked. "We're in the abandoned dwarf mine in the west hills of the dwarf forest," Goldilocks said. "It's not the extravagance you're used to, but we'll be safe here. Very few people know it exists, and it's miles from the parts of the woods that are being burned down." "We're taking shelter in a small cave in the northern mountains, but as you can see, our numbers have grown," Jack said. "Where are all the people and these creatures from?" King Chase asked. "Well, all over the kingdoms," Goldilocks said. "They're the few who managed to escape the masked man's army, just like you. They've lost everything they had." The royals were clearly very sympathetic to the people around them, but had hesitations about sharing the mine with creatures from the forest. "I assure you, everyone and everything in this mine is safe," Sir Lambton said. "We're all united by the same enemy and must stay so if we want to reclaim our world." "You won't find any objection from us," Empress Elvina said on the royals' behalf. "We need to put aside our differences from the past, otherwise there will be no hope for the future." Since the elves had a long history of being ostracized by other kingdoms, the Empress's words spoke volumes. They had already lost so much that unity was something they couldn't afford to lose next. "Where are all the fairies?" Rapunzel asked. "In hiding, hopefully," Goldilocks said. "Is it true that the fairy council was turned to stone?" Trollbella asked. "Oh, we don't know," Jack said with a long sigh. "Shortly after the kingdoms were attacked, Alex and Connor went to the fairy kingdom to find the council to get help, but they never came back." Everyone in the mine looked to the ground with worried eyes and a heavy heart. This was the most distressing news of all. Without the fairy council or the Bailey twins, how would they ever defeat the masked man and his literary army? The future looked even bleaker than it had before. "Alex was right," Cinderella said. "The fairy council should have listened to her. Had they gone after the masked man like she requested, none of this ever would have happened." "What about Charlie or that monster who took him?" King Chandler asked. "Has anyone tracked down their whereabouts?" All the refugees turned to Red. The queen remained silent. She didn't have the strength to relive it. "Red and the lost boys found him at Morina's cottage," Goldilocks said. "The witch has imprisoned him inside a magic mirror. They also found the missing children from the Corner and Charming Kingdoms. They're under some sort of spell, draining their youth." With everything else that had happened, the royals had almost forgotten about the missing children. "Can we plan a rescue for them too?" Rapunzel asked. "The children have been cursed with very dark magic," Hagetta explained. "Moving them from their beds may take their life force completely." "But what about Charlie?" King Chandler asked. "How do we get him out of the mirror?" "We can't," Red said weakly. "Once you're imprisoned in a magic mirror, It's nearly impossible to be freed. It takes powerful magic to put someone inside a mirror, but even more powerful magic to take someone out of a mirror. She's right, Snow White said. My stepmother spent her whole life trying to free a man from her mirror. She was as determined and capable as anyone, and even she needed the wishing spell to do it. The Charming brothers didn't want to believe it, but there was no escaping the truth. There wasn't a silver lining in sight for any of their worries. They're no longer missing if we know their location, Cinderella said. We must find comfort where we can, otherwise we'll worry ourselves to death. God willing, the children and Charlie will be among the things we salvage in the months ahead.
Yes, but how do we begin salvaging anything? Sir Williams asked. Have we ever faced a threat with such disadvantages?
It seemed every question was only followed with more terrible news, so everyone in the mine went silent. No one wanted to accept defeat, but the little hope surviving in their hearts was dying fast. If something didn't happen soon, the fairy tale world as they knew it would be gone forever. The tense silence was broken by the traveling tradesman who had been biting his tongue up to this moment. He coughed. All the refugees in the mines rolled their eyes at the old geezer. Clearly, he was very unpopular among the survivors. When no one gave him the floor, the old man tried to get their attention again. He coughed even louder. Hagetta was the only one with enough patience to acknowledge him. Yes, what is it, old man?
May I offer a suggestion? The traveling tradesman asked.
His question was immediately followed by a chorus of loud sighs. Every time the tradesman opened his mouth, he only filled their head with nonsense. But, to be fair to the old man, Jack raised his hands and silenced the exasperated crowd. Unless someone else has something to suggest or share, there's no point in discrediting his, he said. Red grunted dramatically. Everyone cover your ears, she said. I've heard that crazy is contagious in small quarters. Despite the rudeness he received from his peers, the traveling tradesman went to the center of the mine so everyone could see him as he offered them his suggestion. Perhaps we're all looking at this situation from the wrong perspective, he said. In times as troubling as these, let's not torture ourselves further with questions we don't have answers to. Let's ask the rocks. He proposed this idea as if everyone else was supposed to know what he was talking about. Ask the rocks, Robin Hood said. Merry men, I believe this strange old man is off his rocker. Robin Hood laughed wildly at his own joke, but no one joined him. The tradesman was frustrated that he had to explain himself. Not just any rocks, he said. In my possession, I happen to have precious premonition stones that are directly connected to the will of the fates. The wacky old man reached for his stones, but they were missing from his belt. He spun around in circles, looking all over the ground for where he might have dropped them. Where on earth are my precious stones? He demanded. Has anyone seen them? They were in a skunk skin sack. All 5 of the lost boys turned bright red. Oops, Toodles said. We might have used those during the rescue. You did what? The tradesman yelled. Those rocks are thousands of years old. They're meant for predicting the future, not a slingshot. Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to, Toodles said. They don't look like special rocks to us, Curly said. You really shouldn't leave your stones lying around, Nibs said. Yeah, there are kids in here, the twin said. The tradesman sat on the ground and wrapped his arms around his head. Now, what am I supposed to do to predict the will of the fates? He asked. The lost boys checked their pockets. Would marbles work? Toodles asked. The traveling tradesman let out a deep and apprehensive sigh. Very well, hand them over. Toodles poured a small bag of colorful marbles into the tradesman's shaky hands. He closed his eyes and rubbed the marbles together, whispering strange gibberish to them. Finally, he threw them on the ground in front of himself and carefully watched them bounce and roll into one another. Interesting, he said. Very interesting. The tradesman hemmed and hawed as if the marbles were speaking a language only he understood. It was much more of an ordeal than the refugees were expecting. Curiosity got the best of them, and they formed a circle around him. Well, what are the marbles saying? Jack asked. Don't be ridiculous. Marbles don't speak. They simply move as the fates command, the tradesman said. You see this gray one? Dull, dreary, stuck in the dirt? That represents us. See the blue one and the pink one moving together in perfect unison away from the gray? Those must represent the twins. Fear not! The Baileys are alive. A few of the refugees cheered, but quickly stopped when they remembered the information was coming from an old geezer talking to marbles. But where are they? Jack asked. Oh, they're far away from us by now. Most likely in the other world. But wait! All the refugees leaned in a little closer. Crazy or not, this was still the most entertaining thing they'd seen in weeks. See how the blue and the pink rolled towards the silver, yellow, purple, and red? Now watch. The pink and the blue are rolling back to the gray and the silver and the purple and the yellow and the red. Look! All the marbles knocked the gray one out of the dirt. It's a miracle! The tradesman leapt to his feet and threw his hands in the air in celebration. The refugees were on pins and needles waiting for the message to be interpreted. Even if the news was not as great as it appeared, the tradesman's enthusiasm was infectious, and they hoped that this wasn't as crazy as Red was talking about. But what does it all mean? Jack asked. It means the twins will have to travel to places far, far away, but will return to help and save our world, the tradesman said. But this will happen if and only if, yes, worlds collide, the tradesman said with large, energetic eyes. No one had any clue what the old man was talking about, but they were all so desperate for something positive that they took it as a good sign. Red, on the other hand, was not enthusiastic. All I see is an old man who's lost his marbles, she said. The other refugees slowly came to their senses too. Just because this was the closest thing to good news that they'd received didn't make it credible. Well, I agree with the old man, Goldilocks announced. It doesn't matter what the marbles say or don't say. The Bailey twins have never let us down before. Just because we haven't heard from them yet doesn't mean that we should give up on them. We have to have faith that they'll return to help. Yeah, but what do we do in the meantime? Red asked. Wait, Goldilocks said. That's all we can do. Well, the fun part of that was that we got a lot of characters and a lot of voices, but that was a heavy chapter. People almost died. Holy moly. Holy moly. Yes, agreed, Claire. Agreed. It was a long chapter, though. We got a lot out of it. You guys like the Snow White voice? I saw a lot of your comments while I was reading through. That was a lot, and I'm dreading the end of the book already. Well, the good thing is there's another one. There's a book 6, so there's still one more. Yes. The Snow White voices has been perfected over the years. I know, Renee. I know. But at least, you gotta give it credit for being real good. It only makes sense if you're singing like a princess voice. Yes, of course. You can go like this. You go, Want to know a secret? Promise not to tell. That's Snow White. Or she goes, no, not under the rug. When you, oh, hey, Mrs. K. Unfortunately, I am sold out right now, but I will have a slime restock at the end of the month. It's going to be a really big restock. So there will be plenty of slime for everyone to get a hold of. I would consider turning on post notifications because I will be posting soon the date for the restock. And my recommendation is always to be on time for the restock because it does sell out pretty quickly. Can you do Minnie Mouse? I'm not sure. I can do Mickey Mouse, but I don't know if I can do Minnie Mouse. Like Mickey Mouse is like, not in my imagination. Mickey. But I don't know how many differs. Do you tell us how to order on the post? There's not really any special anything how to order. As long as you're on time, it's just like a regular website. You go, you add whatever you want to your cart, and then you check out. There's no like funny trick to ordering. It's just a regular website that you can say like, I want this one, this one, this one, and then you go to checkout. Yeah, you can't get into the website because it's sold out right now. But when it's open, once there's slime in stock, it'll be open for everybody. Yeah, so don't worry about that. It's only locked right now because everyone on my Patreon gets early access for a day before it opens to the public, and then it opens to the public. And right now there's nothing there. The voices are my favorite part too. It's a lot of fun. I'm really sad though, you guys, because we don't have Mother Goose anymore because she stayed with Merlin in the last book. So she's not with us anymore. Which is a bummer because I really loved doing her voice. I thought she was a lot of fun. But, yeah. Mother Goose was like a Jewish old lady who had smoked too much from New Jersey. Can you make a short story where you showcase your voices? You're about to read Land of Stories 2. It's amazing. What I would say is maybe I can make a video and let people like ask for them, and then I'll fold in the videos where, because I don't have a short story that would fit them, but like Mother Goose was like, I'm trying to think of something that Mother Goose would say. All right, don't get your panties in a twist. We're gonna make sure that Lester takes everyone over there, gets them a nice drink of the bubbly, and then we're gonna hit the hay because it's been a real long day, and fighting all these cads and winkies, it just isn't it. That's Mother Goose. I'm so glad I caught today. I missed out on chat, but accurate. Yeah, no. I mean, the chat was pretty slow because everyone was paying attention. I think you can usually tell when people are enraptured because the chat gets slower. Like, the chat was really wild during the last book because everyone was kind of like so-so on it. But in this, everyone's just like focused on what's going on. And so the chat goes a lot slower during those times, which is not a bad thing at all. That's just my interpretation. I could be wrong, but I think that's what was happening. And also in the last book, like, there were other things to react to, and Secret Boyfriend was making funny jokes and things. Okay, so I will go make the Broadway video right now, and then everyone who has questions can comment on it, and I'll make answer videos for the questions that the video Renee was talking about, like wanting a like primer, if you will, like a, question place for newbies. So I will do that right now so that everyone has the day to like get their questions or whatever done. And then very funny, Shelly, very funny. And then I will see you all later. Slime time tonight or no? I'm not 100% sure yet. Probably a little bit. Yeah. But I don't know what kind yet. I need to get through today's work first. All right, have a great day, y'all. I'll see you later.